Most people don't ruin their finances by making big mistakes. They ruin it by trying to recover. Not gambling. Not luxury spending. Not greed. Recovery. That phase where you say, once things go back to normal, I'll fix everything. Because right now, it's temporary. Right now, it's survival mode. So you keep the EMI. You keep the habits. You keep the shortcuts. You tell yourself, I'll clean this up later. But later never comes. And years pass with the same pressure, same tightness, same feeling that money should be easier by now. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are not stuck because of what went wrong. They're stuck because of how they tried to recover. There is a specific psychological illusion that kicks in. After a loss, or in stress, after every disruption, it makes intelligent people lock in financial damage, while believing they are being responsible. It feels mature and sensible. It feels temporary. But it isn't. Once you see this mechanism, you'll recognize it everywhere. In salaries, in EMIs, in trading losses, in everyday Indian life. And you'll realize, recovery is where most people quietly lose the next decade. Let's slow this down. Imagine a very ordinary situation. Nothing dramatic. A person in their early 30s, working in a city like Pune, Bangalore, or Hyderabad. Salary comes on time. Life is predictable. Then something happens. Maybe a parent falls sick. Maybe a job switch goes wrong. Your startup shuts down or a family wedding drains your savings. There's a financial shock. Not bankruptcy. Not collapse. Just damage. Savings take a hit. Credit card balances go up. Emergency fund disappears. And mentally, a switch flips. Not panic. Recovery mode. You tell yourself, okay, this year is messed up. So I'll just get back to normal first. And that logic sounds responsible. You don't sell the car. Because commute matters. You don't cancel subscriptions. Because you think your mind needs to relax and it's good for mental health. You don't reduce lifestyle too much. Because you are already stressed. You don't aggressively rebuild savings. Because the cash flow is already tight. Everything becomes temporary. You say, once this phase passes. But notice something subtle. Your life continues. Rent continues. EMIs continue. Habits continue. But the buffer doesn't. Months pass. You're no longer in crisis. But you're not rebuilding either. You're maintaining a damaged structure. And this is where most people get trapped. Because recovery feels like progress. Salary comes. Bills get paid. Nothing breaks. So the brain says, see, we are fine. But you're not fine. You're frozen. Now let's make this more concrete. Think about options trading. Last few years in India. Massive surge. Apps everywhere. Fraud Telegram channels. YouTube screenshots showing 5,000 rupees to 5 lakh rupees stories. Zero to hero trades. Massive profit in one trade. But data shows something brutal. Almost everyone loses. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes violently. Now watch the recovery illusion at work. A person loses 80,000 rupees. Not life-ending. But painful. What do? They don't stop. They say, let me recover and exit. They reduce position size. They trade more carefully. They aim to break even. They are not chasing greed anymore. They are chasing normalcy. That's the illusion. And months later, 80,000 rupees becomes 1.5 lakh rupees. Because the goal was never profit. The goal was to erase pain. Without changing behavior. This pattern is everywhere. After a loss, people try to recover inside the same structure that caused the damage. They don't step back. They stabilize the wound. That's the trap. This is called the recovery illusion. Here's the mechanism, clean and simple. After a financial hit, the brain prioritizes normalcy over repair. It wants life to feel the same again, as fast as possible. So instead of asking, what needs to change? It asks, how do I get back to where I was? That single question is the problem. Because getting back often means locking in the damage. You preserve EMIs instead of restructuring. You preserve habits instead of redesigning life. You preserve identity instead of adjusting reality. The illusion is this: if I can just recover, everything else will work out. But recovery is not repair. Recovery is stabilization. And stabilization after damage means the damage becomes the new base. This is why people say, I'm earning well, but still stuck. Because they are not building forward. They are maintaining backward. The recovery illusion convinces you that reducing pain is progress. Maintaining life is responsibility. Delaying decisions is maturity. None of that is true. It just feels true when you're tired. Let's break down what this illusion actually causes. Step by step. No theory. Just consequences. Step 1. You treat damage as temporary. So you don't make structural changes. You don't downsize. You don't reallocate. You don't rebuild buffers aggressively. Step 2. Temporary decisions become permanent. EMIs continue. Expenses normalize. Lifestyle stays intact. But savings don't recover. Step 3. Your margin disappears. You're okay month to month. But fragile. Any small shock hurts. Step 4. You start using short-term fixes. Credit cards. Trading. Side hustles under pressure. Risk disguised as recovery. This is where options trading fits perfectly. People don't trade to grow wealth. They trade to undo damage. That mindset is deadly. Because now every decision is emotionally loaded. You're not calm. You're compensating. Step 5. Years pass. And one day you realize you didn't fail. You just never truly recovered. You stabilized damage and called it life. That's the long-term cost. Here's the uncomfortable insight. Real recovery often looks worse before it looks better. That's why people avoid it. True recovery requires visible downgrade, uncomfortable pauses, identity adjustment. And Indians hate this. Because society rewards continuity. Same car, same phone, same lifestyle. Downgrading feels like failure. So instead, people silently suffer. Let's talk specifics. After loss, there are only two paths. Path 1. Recover emotionally, not structurally. This is what most people do. They say, I'll manage. They tighten here and there. They hustle more. They wait. This keeps life intact, but freezes progress. Path 2. Repair structurally, even if it hurts. This means asking brutal questions. What must change permanently? What cannot be afforded anymore? What identity am I clinging to? This is where real recovery happens. But it's slow and socially invisible. No one claps when you cancel an EMI. No one praises you for stepping back. So people avoid it. Let's revisit options trading one last time. The people who survive losses are not smarter. They do one thing differently. They stop. They accept loss as information, not insult. They don't try to recover inside the market. They step out, stabilize life, then decide fresh. That's repair. Same with money. Same with life. Here's the twist most people miss. The recovery illusion doesn't come from greed. It comes from dignity. People want to feel intact. They don't want life to look broken. So they preserve appearance instead of rebuilding foundations. This is why smart people get stuck. Because the illusion feels mature. It sounds like responsibility. But it's avoidance dressed as patience. And the longer you stay in recovery mode, the harder it becomes to exit. Because life adapts. Pain becomes familiar. Pressure becomes normal. And one day, you're no longer recovering. You're just surviving well. That's the danger. So here's the question that actually matters. Not, how do I recover? But, what damage am I pretending is temporary? What structure am I maintaining? That should have changed. What loss am I still trying to undo? Instead of accepting. Because real recovery doesn't feel like relief. It feels like reset. Quiet. Unimpressive. Invisible. And once you see this mechanism, you'll realize why so many people never move forward. They weren't unlucky. They just recovered the wrong way. Pause. Let that sit.